So we're here right now with Bob Bocock. We are in East Palestine. Status Coup has been here all week reporting on the absolutely horrific events that have been going on. Bob works closely with Aaron Brockovich. He's an environmental investigator. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. We'll start off with what's behind us here. We've been kind of talking about these sorts of water pumps and aeration devices all week. Both myself and John Farino, who was here with me for most of the week, have been trying to get some answers on these. You seemed pretty shocked when you got here and saw what was going on. Can you explain a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Well, like I've been saying all along, as the investigation unfolds, I really am beginning to believe that they're taking a really bad situation and actually making it worse. Now, in this area here, what they're doing is they're aerating the water. So vinyl chloride, which is one of the chemicals of concern, but there are many other chemicals of concern, but the vinyl chloride is a volatile chemical, and so when they throw it into the air, it will separate from the water. It's aerated, and it becomes part of the air, and then the sun will ultimately, and oxygen, destroy it. Oxygen is very good at destroying vinyl chloride. The problem is the vinyl chloride's actually gone down. This is probably one of the most porous places for water from these creeks to get into the groundwater. And this is the groundwater supply that is the drinking water supply for this community. The community has 5 groundwater wells, and those 5 groundwater wells were identified by the state of Ohio as being very transmissive, meaning that this water that's in this creek can end up in those groundwater wells in literally days. That is what causes me so much concern about this. I was anticipating that the rail spill site, which is a good mile from here in the, I believe, easterly direction, that it would take several months for those chemicals to transmit to this direction. So in fact, what we're seeing here is a complete circling of the community. So you've had the rail spill over there that went into the creeks brought it here. These creeks literally encircle the entire community. And by taking it off like this and putting it into the air now, they're preventing it from going into the subsurface soils that will ultimately start permeating all of these homes around here in their basements and in their subslabs. And it'll be a chronic contamination. What I mean by that is it's something they're going to experience for decades. This is a response that I would take in a very controlled setting. This just appears to me to be very uncontrolled and kind of haphazard, and kind of a quick and dirty response, and maybe that's needed. But I think that if you're going to be doing this, literally right over top of your drinking water supply, you better start addressing the drinking water supply sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And this week I was shocked when I actually found out after speaking with, we've been talking to families here all week, and one mother in particular we've gotten to know very well, and her son asked, "Oh, can I do an interview with my friends?" And I was like, of course, we'd be happy to. Let's just make sure it's okay with your parents. And I asked the kids what it's been like being back at school. And I was shocked to find out that the water fountains in school are still open and kids can be filling up their water bottles there.
Sure.
Is that something that you think is irresponsible at this point in time?
Even more so today, having looked at this operation as it's being deployed right behind us here. But it's one of those kinds of things that in a community like this that's experienced so much trauma for the last 2.5 weeks, I think it's 3 weeks today actually. Is it 2 or 3?
It's almost 3 weeks at this point.
Yeah, it was on Friday night, so it'll be 3 weeks tonight.
Yep.
Anyway, experiencing so much trauma over this 3-week period of time, it's important to recognize that perception is as important as the physical effects of the chemical contamination and that exposure. And so, leaving the drinking fountains open at the schools is probably sending the wrong message. These people are taking bottled water home right now. Is the contamination in the drinking water supply? I've been told it's not. They need to be testing every hour to convince me of that,
right,
especially when you see this type of condition here. It's interesting. So the area, the state of Ohio identified this in what they call a source water protection plan. And that source water protection plan is updated every 5 to 10 years, depending on the conditions in the situation like this. There are 5 groundwater wells situated in this park. That's the drinking water
Right.
supply. They're literally right here, right next to us right now. And so the state in that source water protection plan identified the protection zone at 0. I've looked at 10,000 source water protection plans in the United States of America, and very, very few have a source water protection of 0. So they're already basically stating that this is a problem. And so as far as I'm concerned, I was going to come out here and say, you know, my prescription would have been get the treatment systems designed, get them ready to go online. For all intents and purposes, they need to be doing that yesterday,
Right.
not a couple of weeks from now.
And frankly, that's not the only thing that, at least from my perspective, it seems like they should have been doing yesterday. We briefly talked about testing before this. Sure, has there been testing being done? Yes. But are they testing for all of the right things? It seems like there are things being left out here that should be being tested for.
Not only are there things being left out, but they're testing for all the wrong things. And so those give, you know, back to the perception thing. Is the drinking water supply contaminated at the school drinking water wells or drinking water fountains today? I don't know.
Right.
But neither do they.
Right.
And so where it becomes an issue is that issue of perception. So when all these knuckleheads run around town doing all this testing, they're giving the perception that, hey, these guys are on top of it.
Right.
Well, running around into somebody's home and putting an air sniffer that's designed for a factory worker and very, very high levels of exposure that will cause immediate, you know, suffocation, not just, you know, chronic carcinogenic exposure,
Right.
it's giving the wrong sense of security. You know, that test, as far as I'm concerned, it's like a cheap magic trick. You know, I don't have the answer, so look over here. Look what I'm doing over here, and
So
it's not really working.
These results that residents are seeing then, I've had several like sending me videos of the tests in their home because these residents are rightfully skeptical of all of this. They're
Right.
sending me the results that they're getting. Everyone's getting the same result of
0.
It's 0 or less than whatever so you're saying even the air tests in people's homes, folks should be concerned about.
Back to that perception
Right.
situation. This is a traumatic event. It's a serious environmental disaster that's unfolding in real time. It's great that they're running around town and convincing people that everything's fine and you're safe.
Right.
That's perception. That tells me something's going on, or they just like to waste a whole lot of money on contractors.
And I can tell you as well, I mean, we've, in the week we've been here so far, we've followed these creeks downstream. There are more of these downstream. And even when you get further downstream, at a certain point, it gets difficult to see any chemicals in the water. But we're seeing chemicals in the water more than a mile away from this still. When you're doing, you know, trying to stir up anything on the bottom, we're seeing this sort of stuff kicking up. So what they're doing here is, you know, potentially doing something, but it's not making these things go away. It doesn't seem like this is a problem that you're going to solve by just spraying this into the air. I don't know.
Now, I can get real scientific with you, and it goes back to that issue of perception. And I don't want to give the wrong impression. There are serious amounts of chemical contamination in these surface water bodies today. Okay, but when we go around and we start, you know, scraping dirt, we're releasing anaerobic bacteria that will give the same visual impression as an oil slick. Okay. So it you know, my colleagues in science are going to, you know, call me out for BS at the same time. And what I want to make sure you understand is those types of things can exist. You know, bacteria is our friend. The bacteria are actually consuming and eating some of these contaminants. Unfortunately, they were hit with so much so fast, and then the fires, and then the water from the fire extinguishing practice and other activities have overloaded even the bacteria. So they're not doing their job right now, which would be to consume some of that contamination. So there's a lot of different things going on.